the case it says is Better Cotton, and some of you might be knowing that Better Cotton is a leading sustainability initiative, a global initiative, exists since almost now about 13-14 years and working across almost 25-26 countries. And India is one of the country where this is scaled to almost now 7 lakhs farmer, 8 lakhs farmers. They are currently working in India, and Ambuja Cement Foundation is one of the implementing partner to this initiative. So very brief about the foundation. 30-year-old foundation started in 1993 with a vision to where a sustainable and prosperous society built on a long-term partnership. So partnership is the key for all our programs wherever we do across India. We are currently in 56 districts, 13 states, around 4,200 villages, and reaching out to about 3 million community members across India. These programs are very varied in terms of specific need at a different location, but largely focusing on natural resource, water, as well as soil. At the same time, agriculture-based livelihood and what all different concepts mentioned by Satya in terms of working with the farmers, supporting them to plug the gap. So agriculture-based agriculture livelihood is the largest program of the foundation, and which currently reach out to close to 3 lakhs farmer, where Better Cotton is one of the largest initiative, which reach out to about 2 lakhs farmer across 4 states. In addition to that, we have program in the area of vocational training, education, health, as well as women empowerment, where we are working with about 40,000 women through self-help group, supporting them on a different micro enterprises for their livelihood security. Coming to cotton, and this program, though it is in a 4 state, we have curated this case for Chandrapur district in Maharashtra, where this program was started with just 250 farmer 10 years back, now reaching out to 100,000 farmer in 2 districts, Chandrapur and Nagpur, and Chandrapur is about 50,000 farmer. And this particular initiative, when it was started at a pilot scale of 250 farmer in Chandrapur, I think the challenges were enormous in terms of farmer knowledge, access to knowledge, I would say, access to information, as well as the practices, market forces for input use and all that. And out of that, I think over a period of time with Better Cotton framework, which I will talk about a little bit in detail, currently we are at the stage where putting across all these dimensions of water, soil, biodiversity, decent work in the cotton cultivation, as well as the second important aspect which you have touched upon is the market, how we can engage farmer at least at least 1 or 2 level in the market. Currently, every farmer are selling retail individually to the trader, but how we can collectivize and work toward it, and if that can be done at scale, I think that can be a game changer in terms of increasing the income. So that is where we are, and I think this is the next step. I think in this case discussion where we yesterday focused largely on water, but water productivity and then productivity to market is something which we are working toward, and I will share about some detail about it. So Chandrapur is has a fairly good rain, but still there is a issue of I would say ability of water because of limiting groundwater and the infrastructure there. So it's a borderline rain-fed district. Again, I think we have discussed a lot about ability of water structures and their capacity. Here also, I think IIT tech team has analyzed the entire district, and there are about 3,300 water bodies are mapped, but their capacity is around 50% of their original capacity. So there is a huge potential of rejuvenation of water body here also, and I think that is the case in progress here. Again, for the district, I think 30% farmers are dependent on cotton as a livelihood, And as we are all know, cotton comes with a huge environmental footprint, use of pesticide, fertilizer, water footprint, and these are the significant impact on these. So it comes with a huge stress. So again, brief about Better Cotton. So this particular initiative has created a global momentum towards sustainable cotton since last almost now 13-14 years. They work with a vision to a world where all cotton farming is sustainable. So they have a vision of reaching out to the entire cotton farming community in future time to come. And currently, they are in 26 countries. They have 2,500 members and about working with 2.4 million farmers. In India, this initiative is in 6 states, 9 program partner like Ambuja Cement Foundation is one, but there are other 8 program partner in different states and working with about 7.5 lakhs farmer. So this is the basic framework. The BCI has a principles and criteria, and they have defined impact area on, and the hallmark of entire initiative is the training and capacity building of farmer through farmer groups. So all these farmer who are part of this initiative are part of learning group. We call this a learning group at the village level. So each learning group will be of 30-40 farmer, and they are trained on this cotton cultivation principles and criteria. And each learning group will at least have 3 to 4 training on different aspects, right from the cotton land preparation to the final harvest. And in every season, they are exposed to various experts so that they can have a more clarity, more question solutions related to their challenges in cotton cultivation. And finally, the most important aspect I would say is managing their data. Once they start putting this data across, like if a particular farmer has a 1 hectare of cotton, and when they put the mathematics in terms of what they have used in terms of investment in entire season and what finally come out is something which we are focusing more and more so that farmer know the real economics in terms of what is finally coming out of the entire effort of the entire season. Sustainable sourcing is globally increasing, and if we look at the data of 2017 to 2020, I think leading buyer, where leading buyer is about 90% of, they claim that they are sourcing 90% of their cotton as a sustainable cotton, is increased from 6% to 14% during this period, as well as overall engaged sustainable buyer have crossed about 50% mark. So globally, I think there is an increased demand for sustainable cotton, and where this particular initiative has a huge potential. This is again the outreach of Ambuja Cement Foundation program, where we are with this 4 states, we are reaching out to 200,000 farmers under this initiative. In Chandrapur district, so particularly we are working with 5 block, 12 producer unit of roughly 4,000 farmer each. Each producer unit has around 100-120 farmer groups, and overall about 2.5 lakhs acre area under cotton cultivation, and about 12 lakhs quintal per annum is the productivity. Concentrated in these 5 block is highlighted in this map. What are some of the practices which we are putting forward? Intercropping is one of the major activity, because earlier it was not in practice, but identify many recommended practices by the universities and promoted across this farmer. And that is not only increasing the income, but also helping in terms of enriching soil because of cover crop acting as or leguminous crop, fixing nitrogen and all that. Bio input toward reducing the pesticide footprint of each farmer. Bio input is promoted on a large scale, and I think now slowly now it is reaching out to about 60% of farmer. Farm pond and terracing and all that kind of interventions are also focusing across the farmer community which we are working. But the focus, as I mentioned, is building the collectives of farmer groups and their producer unit, so that at least they finally, once this training is done, and then when at one point of time, once they will be able to act as a collective for their inputs as well as output of the farming. Here is a brief small video.
PU INMS 72 is dealing with 4161 farmers, and these farmers are spread around in near about 40 villages, and we have also organized their learning groups from minimum 25 farmers to 40 farmers, which allows them for better trainings. And also we have one lead farmer to lead that group, so this helps for the more training and dissemination of information regarding agronomical aspects. Also, we have a field facilitator team of about 12 members, and basically that are from local areas. They also help the farmers about the sustainable practices.
So this was basically the one of the producer unit coordinator talking about the structure, that how entire project is structured, and basically so each on every 350 farmer there is a facilitator from the project side, and that facilitator is trained in this entire gamut of better cotton principle criterias and cotton cultivation. They facilitate the learning at the group, and finally it practice adopted by the farmers. The one of the other aspect which is very important, and I think now under major discourse and discussions, is soil health. And I think where this has initiative has the special focus, how we improve the soil health, which is very critical for the sustainability of the crop cultivation as well as the from the climate change adaptation point of view. So soil health is the focus is on building understanding among farmer, because soil testing is happening across country, but mostly the issue is the report reach after crop harvested. So here what we are focusing on, that timely availability of report, as well as how farmer can understand that what is into the report and how they can adopt that report in terms of applying nutrient based on the requirement of a particular field. At the same time, we are encouraging recycling of farm waste, including cotton stalk, so that becomes rich manure, that becomes organic content in soil and resulting in the increased productivity. So as a part of that, I think one of the challenge in the this agri decomposing is availability of good decomposer and promoting an scale decomposer, so that they can fast decompose whatever waste they have and recycle and use it again as a manure. Intercropping, as I mentioned, is something very important, which we are promoting as a part of increasing income, as well as also acting as a cover crop and soil enricher. So I think if you look at this data, I think organic carbon is very, very low, or it is low to moderate, which is one of the focus area, that because of these practices, how we can increase that, so that has an impact on the outcome of the overall outcome at the level. But overall, I think in terms of we collect the result indicated data as per the project framework, based on the sample selected by the project. And I think over a period of time, what we have observed is this data fluctuates season to season, because depend upon the kind of situation in terms of pest and all that. But there is a definite reduction in pesticide use, fertilizer use a large extent, up to 20-22%. Yield improvement up to 16%, as well as economics in terms of overall economics, I would say, compared to the non-better cotton farmer, there is a net profit of up to 42%. So these are the data I think we discussed a lot about yesterday also, and in sync with all the data which we have discussed yesterday. So demand and supply, I think supply side intervention we have talked more about. Here we are also focusing on demand side of water, so that water is used efficiently, because water is very scarce and available in very limited quantity in those areas because of the and it requires water toward the end of monsoon to continue the crop for next 2-3 months, and where micro irrigation as well as sprinkler kind of thing is very, very useful, and we are promoting it under the project. So overall, about 23% irrigated area and around 73 non-irrigated. Or 23 irrigated area, I think around 43% farmer has some kind of micro irrigation technique or efficient use of irrigation method in terms of alternate row and furrow, or maybe sprinkler. So that is where I think the focus is, as sprinkler and drip has a potential to reduce water demand in agriculture. So that where we are focusing to a large extent also. RWB, we talked about it yesterday on in 2 case stories, and I think that is same story unfolding here, where we have worked with about 125 water bodies with 3.5 lakhs cubic meter of silt and about 35 crore liter of water storage potential created in last 3 years. And thanks to Nimesh Bhai and his team, and I think first year we have started with a very small scale, but second and third year it is now picking up. And I think next 2-3 season there is a huge potential to cover, and we are working toward it. It's I think working toward both aspect in terms of enriching soil through this fertile soil, as well as also increasing the water capacity in those water bodies, helping farmer to use the additional water store for supplementary irrigation to the cotton crop. Impact on yield overall, which we have done the analysis with the help of joint team with survey of 150 farmer who use this silt. I think year 1 there is a definite increase of about 27 to 32%. Year 1 irrigated, again it increased from 22 to 37%. Year 2 it's about 37, but overall estimate is that if non-irrigated gets irrigated, I think there is a huge potential in significant jump into the productivity, because most of the farmers are rain-fed farmer, and with irrigation and application of soil, there is a huge potential to increase the overall yield. Now coming to the market side, if we look at the last 10-year information of ginning capacity in Chandrapur, I think it is ginning capacity is increased 5x from about 5,500 quintal per day to around 25,000, 26,000 quintal per day, and that has signify the important increase in the cotton production as well as the processing capacity aligned to that. And this is fairly distributed across all the blocks, and more units are coming up. So we have tried to understand Ginner perspective, that how they are setting up and what is their perspective on this.
The reason for selecting that location is basically most of the farmers who are producing the cotton in their fields, they are duly registered with the BCA. Second thing is there are 2 rivers, so ample of water is available there, and due to rivers the quality of the soil is excellent, and it is very good and ideal for the production of quality cotton. Third is that location is well supported by the logistics. It is well connected with the road. It is beneficial for the farmers to bring their agricultural products to our factory, and secondly, our finished products are also very easily transported to the various locations.
And when farmer goes to longer places, sometimes he suffered from malpractices. So we have selected this location so that farmer can sell their product directly to our factory.
That BCA cotton have a very good quality, including length, strength, grade. Here in our area, that program is run by the Ambuja Cement Foundation. So they are taking regular programs to provide a proper training and regular guidance to the farmers for betterment of their cotton.
Just because of better cotton, most of the big mill of India right now are associated with us, and they are regularly buying from our factory.
So this is how this story is unfolding. So now about what pilot we have done at the self-help group level, where we have engaged them, they have supported them in terms of collectivizing their cotton produce and sell into the market. And what we have learned out of that, about 12% margin from direct sale at individual level to collectivizing, and that margin it distributed at farmer level, at SHG level. And this is the case, I think, which we have analyzed with IIT, and there is a huge potential. This is only collective selling, but if we process it to a one level, maybe ginning at the farmer level, and then again go as a finished product, it's a bale and the seed separately, it's a huge potential, and this is what we have sold. In terms of overall capacity, this pilot was done with 30 self-help group, and their idea is they are gearing up that their current capacity they want to expand to 5x in next 3 years. And what support they require is in terms of working capital, storage, and transport, which we are exploring that how we can support them in terms of credit over a period of time, because they are old SHG and they can leverage credit from the banks as well as other joint liability group concept. Storage is and transport is something which we are supporting, exploring ideas that how we can support them so that they can grow. More than 70% they are keen to forward integrate to selling gin bales. So they have now confidence that they collectivize the cotton procurement and sell as a collective. But then they also realize that if they process it, or they even do it toll processing with the existing ginner and sell as a bale, there is a potential for upward income rise. So this is the analysis for that gin cotton bale, where we have seen that there is a potential up to 35 to 40%, on an average 38% of increase in revenue if cotton is sold separately from as a bale and cotton seed. And a small experiment which we have done with one of the farmer producer company in Gujarat, at that point of time, it was a only 100 bale experiment to sell on multi-commodity exchange, and they have collectivized that cotton and created 100 bale as a toll processing at one of the ginner, and sold, which was sold on a MCX, where they have at least had a net 9% increase in the revenue compared to the raw cotton. So this is the case which we are building, that how we can bring farmer to the market side beside all other intervention into the production input as well as the water and soil aspect. But market is something which will play an important role in overall income of the farmer. And these are two small video clip of the SHG women who are doing this.
पहिलं आम्ही कापूस खरेदी करताना कापसाची ग्रेडेशन केली. मग कापूस नाही का 3 प्रकारचं राहते. त्याच्यामध्ये एक चांगला कापूस राहते, पहिल्या वेचणीचं चांगलं राहते, दुसऱ्या वेचणीचं कधी कवडी कचरा मिसळ राहते त्याच्यामध्ये, आणि पिवळा राहते कापूस. पाणी गिनी आले तर कापूस पिवळा पडते. मग नंतर साठवणूक केली आम्ही कापसाची.
पिवळा कापूस बाजूला ठेवली, स्वच्छता जागात मी ठेवून मग मी काय केली, मी जिनीवर गेली आणि मी जिनीवाल्याला हालबाजून माझी किंमत विचारली. माझा कापूस स्वच्छता आहे ना, गटाचा कापूस आहे, किंमत किती लावशील बा. मग त्या जिनीवाल्यानं म्हटला, तुझा कापूस स्वच्छता आहे का, म्हणून तुला 50 रुपये तरी पण मी अधिक लावेल, आणि त्याची कापसाची तुझी फाडीची किंमत घेणार नाही ना, काट्याची किंमत नाही.
त्यांना पहिलं आमच्या गावामध्ये बाहेरगावचे दलाल लोक येत होते. त्यांनी पर क्विंटल 5 किलो कापत होते आणि फाडीवर सुद्धा कापत होते. काट्यामध्ये फरक दाखवत होता.
150 शेतकरी जुटल्यानंतर मी अशी माहिती दिली का तुमच्या हातात स्वतःचा काटा घ्या आणि तुम्ही बियर धोका 100 ग्राम अधिक असेल तरी पण तुमचे 100 ग्रामचे मी पैसे देणार, अशी मी माहिती दिली. म्हणून शेतकरी माझ्या गटाची जुटून
पुढची न्यूज आता जसे 108 शेतकरी जुडलेले आहे, याच्यानंतर जास्त शेतकरी जास्तीत जास्त जुडले पाहिजे. तरी 300-400 शेतकरी जुडले पाहिजे आणि आमचा व्यवसाय मोठा झाला पाहिजे. जसं जिनिंगला कापूस काटण वेगळे करतात आणि सरकी वेगळे काढतात, सरकीपासून तेल काढतात आणि तेलापासून ढेप जे बाहेर निघते ते विकल्यानंतर जे आपल्याला भाव मिळतो, त्याचा व्यवसाय त्याच्यामुळे मोठा होऊ शकतो.
पुढचे नियोजन म्हणजे जिनीवर जाऊन कापसाची बी, कापसाचं रुई असं काढण्याची माझी इच्छा आहे की म्हणजे माझ्या महिलांना रोजगार काम मिळेल बा, म्हणून माझी अशी इच्छा आहे.
So I think it was very clear. I think beside collective marketing also resulting into the good practices, which they were many times facing issues in terms of taking more weight compared to the actual rate. I think as he was mentioning, 5 kg extra per quintal as a stress were being deducted when they were selling. But when they collectivize, I think that has given the confidence to farmer to give to these women, and then they collectivize and sell it to the China. So they are now very confident that they will take it to the next level. So overall, if we integrate all this impact data in terms of pooled sale to mills and spinner, cost reduction because of various intervention, as well as yield increase due to the sustainable practices, soil and water. This is the kind of equation we are saying, that there is a potential of 10 to 20% reduction of input cost because of this training and practices. There is a potential of 10 to 13% increase due to pull sell to mill and spinner if it is processed further. And as we are discussing since yesterday, there is a huge potential in because of increase in the soil health as well as water availability, about 35 to 70%. So if we bring it together, there is I think 2 to 3x potential of increased income. But certainly, I think if we look at the overall economics at let's say a farmer with 5 acre, there is a potential to go income to about from 1 to 3 lakh. And if we discount it further, I think there is a huge, certain position or proposition of at least doubling farmer income from wherever they are. And this is relevant because cotton is grown across almost 17, 18 states. But these are the major states, 6 states where there is sustainable cotton is, this better cotton is there. India, I think, accounts for 25% of global cotton production, and directly responsible about 6 million farmers. And this solution, integrated solution, both from the sustainable practices and market, is something which has a huge scale and huge relevance across cotton community in India and globally. Thank you.
So Niyati, I think to start with you, and while this is a very farming and farmer focused, there's a strong connect to water there as well. And I want you to kind of take it on its head, because one of the things you said, which is very interesting, is if you start with water, lots of other things will follow, right? If you can just expand on that from your experiences of whatever you've seen and the work you've done, and that connect to farming or whatever else you've seen, if you start with water, the rest will follow. If you can tell us more about that.
So thank you so much, Joe. So Chandrakant, I'll talk about our project with ACF a little later, but I wanted to talk about one of our projects in Uttarakhand. So Ambuja Foundation is part of the Hinduja group, and we keep 20% of our CSR funding for water. We have separate funding for sustainability and separate funding for water, where water is a materiality for sustainability for all our group companies. One of our group companies is Ashok Leyland, and it has a huge plant in Pantnagar, which is on the foothills of the lower Himalayas. Central Groundwater Board controls how much water we extract, etc., etc. The Pantnagar plant is water positive. And in 2019, CGWB Dehradun said, you guys are extracting too much water. This is such a rain-fed area. Please build underground concrete tanks and store water for usage. And because I have the CSR and the sustainability hat, I said, no underground tanks. We're not going to build any concrete tank. This is ridiculous. So we said, okay, your problem, what is your problem? So they said that, this area was the Terai region where you had artisanal wells where you would just poke a twig into the ground and water would flush out like a gush, like you see those the movies that oil gushes out. And in 75 years, water table went down to 50 feet. And in the last 3 years, it's gone down to 400 feet. So all industries around are extracting too much water, and we need to stop that. So we said, look, is there another way to do this? So we, with help of experts, mapped all the aquifers and all the underground water streams as much as we could. Where is the source of this water? And we realized not only is it rain fed, but also there was springs in the lower Himalayas. There is the Gola catchment. There's a river there, and it's called the Gola River, and there's the catchment there. There were two tiny rivulets in and around Pantnagar. So we said, let's first tackle those. And we first cleaned up the two rivers that were close to in Pantnagar. Major problem was garbage and sewage. We dealt with it by putting soak pits in the villages, and we, Ashok Leyland truck companies started a whole garbage collection, segregation, composting system. So these two rivers started getting cleaned. Then as we moved ahead, we then mapped all the springs, and we realized that the springs are all dry up there. I went up into the mountain, and I went down with the women of some villages to a spring. It took me 1 hour to go down and 1.5 hours to come up. Okay, I'm not fit. I'm really not fit. But the women walk down in 10 minutes and walk up in 15 minutes with water on their head. They do this 5-6 times a day. They do it since the time they're 5 years old to the day they die. The only time that they don't do it is 7 days after their birth. And what was happening to their health? The uteruses were prolapsing, their spines were fusing. Again, we mapped all those springs, and we realized, again, yesterday the conversation of upstream and downstream was going on. And then I was thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what we were doing. The springs were in the downstream, but to feed the springs, the percolation was upstream. And the villages on upstream had to give us land so that water could percolate there from there, and the springs on the downstream would get water. So we started working with the villagers on top to give us a private land to do the trenches or whatever treatments needed to do for water to percolate. And initially they were hesitant, but then we said that the villagers from downstreams will come and help you build those trenches, and we will pay all of you. And they will also have a water user committee and a village water committee, and they will collect money to maintain it later on. When these trenches were built, obviously soil moisture was very high. We gave them bay leaves. We gave them saplings of bay leaves. And that was in 2019. And in 2022, this is one story. 2022, the bay leaf trees were mature enough for bay leaf to be sold. On the other side, the women had now water next to their homes. Some places where the springs were very far away and the hamlets were above, we did some solar lifting. We also looked at rainwater harvesting tanks where the springs were, where we couldn't, recharge and restore the springs. We did rooftop harvesting. There are about 42 schools in this 150 villages, 42 schools. We worked with the kids there, making them water technologists, to map how the springs were getting fed by upper reaches, etc., etc. So then the women now had time, the health is improving, adult education, tailoring, and orchards, because there are lots of fruits that grow there. Come back to the bay leaf farmers. The bay leaf farmers started going down to Haldwani, which is the foothills of the mountain, to sell their bay leaf. They were getting 100 rupees per kilo. I buy that same bay leaf on Amazon, 100 rupees for 50 gram. And that's when we formed the farmer producer organization, 500 farmers in it. We did all these structures that needed to be done, bank account, training, secretary, blah, blah, blah. We've done the market linkages with large organizations. We're teaching them how to segregate the bay leaf, and they're selling it. So I was telling Joe the other day, water is the first. Again, recharge of water is extremely high. Water availability is extremely high. The Gola River catchment has water now. CGWB has been watching us very closely. Every 3 months they go do an audit. They realize this was working. This is really working for Pantnagar town to some extent. Again, I'm going to ask Joe to help us actually find out exactly how much. We can see it. It's visible, but we don't have data for Pantnagar town. But we can see it visibly. We have also data of how much discharge per minute is happening from this springs, especially in summer. Then these orchards. Now the orchards started having all the fruits. You have plums, peach, kiwi, apricot, and there was fruit. One young lady who got married to one of our young engineers there from Hyderabad moved there, and she says, "Oh my God, there's so much fruit. Let me do something about it." She came to Pondicherry. She learned how to do preserves. Now they have fancy preserves, squashes, teas, And then she looked at the salts that are available there. You have hemp salt and coriander salt and chili salt. And now there's a whole set of SHGs that is working with her to, use the produce from their orchards, which are of better quality, to make produce that can be sold in the cities. And you have the farmers that have the bay leaf. So it's water in environment impacts in the first 2 years, then comes with livelihood, then comes with the health, and then comes with education. So I truly believe that, you start with water, but at the end, you actually reach the goal of making the world a better place for these people that live up on the mountain. Again, it was our support was only funding for where they needed it, getting a partner that had huge technology expertise and knew how to get things done, but everything was done collectively. During the COVID, most of the men in this area work as cooks in restaurants in different parts of Nainital, etc., etc. They were all back home. They learned a skill of working on the trenches. When we were building the rainwater harvesting tanks during COVID, obviously there was lockdown. A lot of local contractors got developed. I'm a civil engineer. I worked in an infrastructure company. I was part of the Bandra Valley ceiling. So segmental construction of rainwater harvesting tanks was developed in that area. We built entrepreneurs there now build these rainwater harvesting tanks. So it's just not water. And it just keeps adding. And I'm so excited to know what is the next that we will do in these projects. It doesn't end there. We've not achieved everything. Every year, I'm surprised that something new comes up and something, a new impact is added and something, and the villagers themselves are seeing this and they're themselves developing themselves to do something better. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Without asking you to dwell more on it, that's a very, very rich experience. But broadly, are you seeing similar things in other places where just to cover that point?
Yeah, the work that we're doing with Ambuja Cement Foundation in Alwar, in Jetharan, in Nagore, in Nasirabad. Again, Mr. Chandrakant talked about the demand and the supply. And again, a lot of people spoke about everybody is working on supply of what, but nobody is working on the demand side. So in these areas, we're working with Jeera, rye producers. Again, the same thing. Initially, it was difficult to get the farmers to look at how to best use water. But then we said, let's work on land where is not used. It's Banjar land. Let's try to convert your Banjar land using best water practices and seeds and cropping to give you more produce. And yes, we've seen this there. I mean, I only use that case because it just showed that a statutory requirement by a government body to do something resulted in something else. And now CGWB has actually asked other organizations that work there to do this instead of building those horrendous concrete underground tanks, for water collection. So it's sometimes just out of box thinking to do something better than not just easy ways. I mean, building those underground tanks would have costed her a lot of money, but it was the most easy way to do things and to, meet a statutory requirement. But this resulted in so much more. And similar, we're seeing it in Alwar. Ashok Leyland has a factory there again, and we're seeing it there as well. We have another company, Hinduja Leyland Finance. We're seeing it with their rural customers in, a lot of stuff that was talked about, rural water bodies being rejuvenated is what we're doing in Ajmer and Nasirabad area. IndusInd Bank is also a group company of the Hinduja group, and we see a lot of work being done with Ambuja Cement Foundation in Jetharan, in Nagore, in Rajasthan, and in Farakka in West Bengal. So yeah, a lot of it. But again, first year is all about water, and then it just keeps accumulating. So actually, I've changed my goals of the water plan. I have now put it that there has to be the livelihood and health and education component. And when I speak with my partners, and when there are new partners that work with me, and I'm actually telling them that, look, this is the final goal.
Let's start here. That's fantastic. Thank you. Amrtha, I'm going to flip the questions on you. I'm actually going to start to your second question because I just realized there's a strong link to the theme we're talking about, which is water, and then you also get to farming, right? And with the RWB hat, which you've got such deep experience on, have you seen the same thing? You start with water, but you get to farming, and what does that look like?
Thank you so much. So, Amit must have spoken yesterday, and we've rejuvenated around 5,000 water bodies, right, across the country now. And what that means is an availability about, 5 crore cubic meters of silt, right? And most of the silt is fertile and it's gone to farmers across the country. So what we've really seen, Joe, is this accumulated impact that Niyati just spoke about, right? Year one for us, actually, the turnaround is that Kharif itself. And what we are seeing is that the farmers who are carting silt to their fields are seeing much better productivity. And there's huge crop diversity also that's going on, right? I may have grown wheat, I may have grown soya bean. Now I'm suddenly diversifying to horticulture, and we are seeing a lot of change in cropping happening, a lot of crop diversity increasing. We are seeing tremendous growth in yield. So what we've done is we've done studies that are immediately after, right? 1 year after. But what we also had going on is a study that looked at 5 years after. So are the yields sustaining? And what is really interesting is, as Chandrakant, and I was looking at the numbers when he was talking, right? And they're strikingly similar. So what we are seeing is that there is this 10 to 20% drop in input costs, but there's also huge increases in yield. And for cotton especially, we are seeing 43 to 106% increase. For sorghum, we are seeing again close to 20 to 100% increase, and for soybean again something between 30 and 90% increase across locations, right? So this is not one location I'm talking about, multiple locations. And what we're also seeing is huge returns on water, because when you're doing rejuvenation, you're impacting surface water capacity, but you're also impacting groundwater capacity, right? So we are seeing 2 to 4 time increase in groundwater levels and directly impacting farm wells. So I think in the zone of influence between 1 to 3 kilometers downstream of the water body, wells are improving, which means that your cropping suddenly is happening much better. Again, a point that Mr. Chandrakant referred to, right, in terms of irrigated area and how are you irrigating, right? So overall, what we see is around 120% increase in net income. And the good news is it's sustaining, right? Over 5 years, your demand for external inputs has not increased. And over 5 years, you have sustained and improved yield and income. And that's pretty much the story. And it's super heartening, because when you do this work and then when you're trying to see what exists in the country, it's really interesting that you can, now with the water body census, you see that there are about 1.7 lakh water bodies that potentially could benefit from this, right? And you could either go and do a repair and renovation, which essentially means that you're going to just use that silt and burn that water body and get out of there. Or you could do this, right? This idea that the Sutradhar is sitting there very quietly, Nimesh Bhai, but, that you can turn around lives. And, this is, the numbers are telling you cold facts, but I've traveled to Rajgarh where we've done NITI-Aayog project. In the year one, you have to go and tell them, no, you do this. In year two, when you get down, they are there. When is this starting? And when you go and when you start a rejuvenation, you have the excavator going first, and then you have trolley after trolley literally lining up, and we look at an efficiency of 14 per hour, but when the work picks up, you have farmers lining up and doing 20, 22, So I think the good thing also about this work, because it's so intrinsically tied, right, is that they understand it in their bones as farmers, so just a small reminder and a nudge, and that ability to participate, we see has huge returns across the country.
Fantastic. So Rajiv, another connect, again, sticking with the watershed story, but the connect with a very big program that the government has is Manrega. Yeah. And I think you've got deep experience of how, with your watershed constructs that you're doing, Manrega is there at scale. And again, it's very important again to our farmer communities, because there's a big benefit to the community, the farmers. But tell us about that connect and what you've been able to see in the work you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe, for this invitation and opportunity to share my experiences. And before I begin my experiences, I just wanted to briefly discuss about GIZ. Maybe some of people are not familiar, because during tea sessions and I came with some such questions. So GIZ is a German abbreviation, which still I can't pronounce. It's a English translation says German Development Cooperation, not corporation, cooperation. So we are a technical cooperation program, a bilateral program with Government of India, working in India from last 65 years, working in across the globe in more than 100 countries. And we run every program except health in India. So regarding my journey about this Manrega and GIZ journey, actually, I will say that it started coincidentally at the same time. So our first ever bilateral partnership with Ministry of Rural Development under MGNREGA happened in 2012. And then this program was conceived as a MGNREGA's environmental benefit program in 2013. And I rejoined actually GIZ as an NRM expert in 2014. So this journey started when NREGA's demand-based program. NREGA is a public words I will say the largest employment guarantee program. No country has it, and it guarantees you 100 days of employment to every rural household in India on demand. So based on that, this potential of harnessing the local skills and non-skilled workers and giving employment guarantee, and then to build national assets, especially in the natural resource management, where GIZ was bilaterally commissioned with German government. So this idea was that how to make efficiently, because it's a public program. When the money is spent, Parliament raises the question where this money goes and where taxpayer money is going on. So the impact was not visible. If you see the 2013 onwards, there was no such bilateral program with the MGNREGA. It was running with its own think tank and all the expertise when German side came into play. So I would just like to highlight this opportunity to share that German government started the Indo-German watershed program in 1970s, which are the first ever programs. We are talking all about watershed programs, and nobody knows that who contributed technically. So it is the German side which contributed to the Indian watershed programs. So building on that principles, so we introduced, we found that what was the challenge in NREGA program, why it is not so being spent crores of rupees. I think in 2015-14, the annual budget of NREGA was 35,000 crore. So it was still very high budget, but still it was not creating that much impact. So when we found it out that there is a planning issue in the program, because the program is not planned scientifically, logically, it is not based on the watershed principles. So what to do? So NREGA is a huge jumbo program, and it is running across 250,000 gram panchayats in India, and how to make it work. So to start with, we started a pilot in 2014 with 3 states, Andhra, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh. We took 2 districts, 2 blocks, and 2 gram panchayats. That means total we were working in 24 gram panchayats as a demonstration. So idea was that how to plan better efficiently in a very less time. So I think the role of technologies, which we have been discussing in the last 2 days as well. So we use the digital technologies, and Joe's IIT is also into doing. I saw some of the thematic layers of the on GIS platform. So we used, we developed actually GIS developed a very simplistic way how this NREGA can adopt it. The GIS based and remote sensing based, we call it as CWRM plans. Composite water resource management plans. So which sounds like we are working on the water. Yes, of course, 65% our focus was on water based initiatives, and then rest of the info was on the natural resource management as well. So what that tool is about is that we found that without going to village, on a GIS platform with the open source like Google Earth and the NRC's Bhuvan portal, I'm sure that the people who understand this language, they know what is Bhuvan portal. So we drawn a very simplistic method to how to draw the spatial data, how to draw special thematic layers, which were very, very essential, like land use, land cover, like drainage lines, geohydromorphology, soil, type of soil, and then the all sorts of things based on which 7-8 layers we analyzed the village, kind of whole landscape. And then we also collected some statistical data, and based on statistical data, the purpose was to calculate the water budget. The idea was to water budget based on the cropping pattern, what is the crop water requirement, and what is the animal husbandry, what are the ruminants kind of people, what is the, and then human based on the WHO standards. So based on that, we found that there is a deficit. And we are all talking about how to achieve the water positive gram panchayats, water basins, river basins. So that was whole idea. So on one hand, we have a thematic analysis. On the one hand, we have a statistical analysis, the water budget. Based on that, we drawn that what is the existing structures are there, like many traditional water bodies were existing, many other water conservation structures were existing, which were made traditionally or maybe under the NREGA program since it was launched in 2006. So we found that some corrective measures has to be done on the rejuvenating the existing water structure, water harvesting structures. And then some has to be newly built based on the need of the priorities. And this whole plan was discussed with Gram Panchayats and it was approved through Gram Sabha procedures. And then how it is contributed to the national labor budget of the MGNREGA program. So this is journey started. I think we made a very successful interventions in last 10 years. We started with, as I said, 24 Gram Panchayat, 3 states, 6 districts, 6 blocks. Now this journey is continuing through our, there is a third version of our project, which is running currently. We are supporting 17 Indian states and we have so far supported 10,000 Gram Panchayats to develop this plan. And you will be surprised to see the budget of NREGA has gone tremendously 3 times high. So last figure which I have in my mind was that when the phase first started of the MGNREGA EB program in 2018, it was from 35 to 65,000 crore. And then last year, more than 90,000 crore was spent on that. So this kind of scaling has happened through our capacity development program. It is not that GIZ has implemented. GIZ had just designed the program, how to design it, how to make those CWRM plans and how to implement. We did the capacity buildings of the state level, district level, block level. What is the ground level force, which is 65,000 ground force. They call it the technical assistant, the junior engineers, which are responsible to develop and execute this plan. And to develop that, we also took that we cannot train 65,000 people even in a 30 rooms of a batch. Then it will take maybe 2 decades to train them. So we come up with another idea to develop a massive online course, which we developed for MGNREGA program. It is called eSaksham. So eSaksham is still available on the, you type it www.esaksham.nic.in. You will find out our logo is on GIZ side. And anybody who wants to learn how to develop a CWRM plan based on the watershed principles, just 2 or 20 time you have to spend. It's just like watching a movie. And 17 modules and 7 modules in a 17 basically classroom, and hand to hand you can learn at your anywhere from anything. So that's the story I think I would like to say with the MGNREGA.
So to build on this scaled story, right? And Amrtha, I'd like you to talk about that piece, is the Niti Aayog side. And you're starting to see that happen. Amit talked a little bit about it, but your perspective, you're very much there kind of in the operational side of making those things happen. What is the government seeing? What's the kind of scale you're seeing as government comes in, as Niti Aayog comes in and becomes part of these stories?
Yeah, so we were in Delhi incidentally on Thursday doing this. So it's providential you're asking me this question now. There is a lot of excitement because both in phase 1 and phase 2 of this work with Niti Aayog, there's been huge success in terms of what is the capacity of the water bodies augmented, but also of the farmers, right? So there's tremendous excitement wherever the work has happened. And we went back to talk to the government based on 2 things, right? One is the first census of water bodies that has just come out that talks about how many water bodies exist, which at least gives you a handle on some indicative number. It's not a perfect number, that's government acknowledged, but it gives you an indicative number, right? And that indicative number essentially talks about the availability of 23 lakh water bodies around in rural and urban India. 90 and above % is in rural India, right? But when you peel that layer little by little and you take away, let's say, privately owned, because you're looking at government partnerships and it has to be publicly owned, it has to be above 0.5 hectare in size, then you're looking at least around 2 lakh water bodies, right? At a starting point, right? And what we are saying is that these cost estimates, it's going to cost you around 7,800 crores, right? And the good news is the money is already available. There are 2 flagship programs or 2 flagship components of money items that actually can fund this entire work, right? And that was really the conversation with government, that the money is available. The ability to do has been proved on ground by district collectors, along with civil society support. And it's a very beautiful public-private partnership, right? Cost to government goes down enormously because your cubic meter cost of doing this work is 1/4, because the farmer is taking the silt away, and quite happily, even in states like Jharkhand, where initially when we were trying to go in, we were told, no, it won't happen. But then when you're on field, the farmer says, absolutely, we come and take it ourselves. So somebody is doing this, we are more than happy, you know. So that's the conversation we are having. But there is excitement to build this out into a national program for sure. And I think if that happens, you could see 10-20,000 of them done annually on mission mode, because we saw with Amrit Sarovar, right? We saw around 66,000 being created and rejuvenated in a year. And most of this is actually rejuvenated, 65%, while the initial call was to construct. It became very obvious that rejuvenating was a smarter thing to do. 65% of it is rejuvenated. So there is tremendous potential, and I'm optimistic that that is going to convert into a national program for this.
Fantastic to hear. So back to you, Rajiv, with the mint story. The context is, again, what we're seeing here in cotton happens elsewhere. We saw something in sugarcane yesterday. And I think the realization when I spoke to you was, oh my gosh, it can happen in almost every other crop. And you have a mint story. So tell us the mint story of what you've seen with the farming engagement there.
Yeah. So the mint, I think we were talking yesterday, the water guzzling crops. Mint is also one of the largest water guzzling crops, very short duration crop. And you will be surprised to know we are the world leader in production and supplier to we are a global supply chain in India. And Uttar Pradesh is the largest, if we are 85% of the world's mint production happen in India. And out of those 65% happens in Uttar Pradesh. And all those 65% of Uttar Pradesh, the 90% production happen in the district where our project is Barabanki. So Barabanki has a story of a very small and marginal farmer story. It's a Gangetic plain, water table is very high, so water exploitation is tremendous. So nobody cares. And then it is a flood irrigation in a crop of 90 days crop, 13 irrigations. And one irrigation cost to the farmer is, before lockdown, it was when we started the project, it was 600, now it is 800 to 900 per irrigation. So the 40% of the whole production cost is irrigation. So that was the challenge when this very famous chewing gum company, which is the buyer of this, the menthol oil, the final product, is used by not only confectionery, but also oral care and then pharmaceutical industry as well. So India feels recently Uttar Pradesh has been geotagged. So GI recognition has been given, so that there's a big advantage for the supply chains. So the problem was sustainability was almost zero. 13 irrigation, flood irrigation, and then all diesel pump set. And carbon emission you can think of. Every alternate farmer has a diesel pump, no electricity pumps, no solar pumps. So there was a big challenge from the private sector, and then they approached GIZ how this public-private partnership. We have a vertical called Develop PPP. It's our own website where private sector applies for the projects and these projects get conceived. It's a pooling of the resources. It's not an exchange of the funds. And GIZ is not a donor agency. We only provide technical services, technical cooperation. So that's how this project was conceived in the name of Shubh Mint. Shubh Mint program started, then there is another German company which also deals in flavors and fragrances joined the consortium. So it was become a very big, where 25,000 farmers in the out of 11 blocks, 8 blocks we were covering, almost 243 gram panchayats. So what was the challenge? So our core competency with GIZ was to, analyze the water budget first of all. That is how we understand what is the supply side and what is the demand side. In this project, we tried to maintain focus was not only the supply side, but also on the demand side as well, as I hear the conference here. So what we started was the difficult challenge was very marginal farmer, in a sense, less than 1 acre. It was a challenge. Drips we wanted to introduce drip. First of all, none of the project partners were convinced that drip is possible in a mint. So, but the research paper, and we consulted the scientific institute like CMAP, Central Institute of Medical Medicine, and aromatic plants in Lucknow. So they said it is possible, but it is unaffordable. Nobody pushes it. So, okay, that's the project's duty to introduce some of the innovations as has been done here as well. So we laid down some of the demonstrations we found out cheapest model available in the market, which is that. And for a smallholder, that was a portable gravity-based drip system by a famous irrigation company. We laid down 10 demonstrations and then the story came that the project started at lockdown came and we could not do anything in the middle. So what we thought how to recruit, then we found that the third crop in the year crop rotation is potato. Potato can be drip irrigated. So we demonstrated, started our story, and then gives us the advantage of the return over investment that drip can be used for 2 crops out of 3 crops. So the story of the farmers in Barabanki is that a farmer who grows mint is not sure that he will grow potato. But if a farmer grows potato, he's definitely going to show the mint. So that was the understanding we developed. That is a good start that lockdown has given us. We start with the drip irrigation system with potato demonstration. And then in the mint, we carry forward for that in 2021. And in very 2 years, we were just 37 demonstrations we were given to. And then we thought, let's do for some of the very large farmers, full 1 acre demonstration, which is eligible for the subsidy. Unfortunate part was that the government subsidy is available only for 1 acre. That was also another policy issue with us, which we thought we should look into the matter. When 90% farmer dealing are less than 1 acre, how we will make this happen? But first idea was to this idea works or not. And then we found the results were miraculous. We recorded the testimonials as you people have done. We found that farmers not only saving the 30 to 40% water, but also the cost of fertilization and cost of weedicide has gone because there was a less weed emergence. And then the mortality rate of the mint plants, which were because of the uneven land where the waterlogging was a problem, that also got solved. The productivity gone up by 30%, water 40%, the cost of production. So one instant, multiple benefits. That was the, I think, where we started highlighting, demonstrating, and making awareness. And then we collaborated with Department of Horticulture, which is the nodal agency for the state government to disperse subsidy. So they were also facing a problem that they have a target, but they are not able to achieve their target. So we tied up with government. We help them. We will bring, and there is the online portal which farmer can access. Cannot access. That is the problem also to access the government schemes as well. Schemes are there, money is there, but nobody is able to access. So we have to act as a bridge. So our implementing partners as a GIZ, we initiated that program that how to find eligible farmers who are eligible. And then we found, and we also time negotiated very hard and government thankfully agreed, but I don't know somehow. So the subsidy was reduced from 1 acre to half acre. So our many farmers become eligible. So I think in 22, we applied for 1,000 more than farmer and more than 550 farmers got the subsidy. That was amazing. And district horticulture officer was told from that you achieved our target, and then adoption rate also, got very high. So that is the one story of the when we started the water thing. But CWRM plans were also going because this was at the demand side management. But we also helped them to develop this 243 our project with CWRM plans, which we capacitated the Narega department of the Barabanki district and state government. So you see this, so far the figures are very amazing. Till date, 145 crore has been spent. We as a developing the plans, I remember we spent only 1 crore rupees, just to 1 crore rupees. And then 145 crore rupees is the work in progress. So far, 517 water conservation works has been completed. 40 watershed management work has been completed, 254 irrigation related work has been completed, 226 traditional water bodies has been rejuvenated. So that is the mileage of the power, how you have, leverage with the public sector. So one more important thing in the Barabanki, if you go, there is a Kalyani River. So Kalyani River was not flowing very well, even despite its a Gangetic plain and the tributary somehow connected with the the Saryu River, but it was not, it is meant for irrigation, but it was not, making so much water available in the summer season. So this rejuvenation of the river also was done by clearing the, desiltation, what we have been all doing. and then clearing the bunds, the water flow got double and triple, and then it was almost reaching to the many of the farmers till tail end. So I could have shown the video before, and it is a drone shoot video before and after the work, how the river is rejuvenated. So this is the story on the supply side, demand side. And one innovation we all thought how to do this with carbon emissions of this diesel pump set. So electricity connection is not possible. Again, there is a legislative requirement of how much land you have. So much thing. Then we thought that solar. Solar was coming with a heavy, huge investment. So still a small and marginal farmer. So we thought of a very innovative idea, making solar irrigation on solar irrigation enterprises. So we did a rigorous exercise out of 30 entrepreneur farmers. Out of 30 farmers, we selected 5, and then we set up the one model, demonstrated model in one village with a solar irrigation enterprises. We helped them to set up a 7 bhp pump with his own cost, but we helped them to access the government subsidy and little bit supported from the GIZ fund, so that to demonstrate this model, how it works. So this farmer not only stopped the diesel pump, but also made 22 farmers in the adjoining area to shut down their diesel pumps by supplying through their pipeline. So, and done at cheaper rate. So let's say the rate of supplying was 200 rupees per hour. In the traditional, if you hire a diesel pump or maybe rent out a water, so it was a 200 rupees per hour. So we started with 120 rupees. So it was a win-win situation for the entrepreneur, environment, and then the beneficiary. So this was the one initiative we thought. Then we came across a very social capital venture company, which is a startup from UK. It is called Ahuja. So Ahuja come up with a kind of a franchisee model where they install the solar pumps, and then they collect the revenue on the water sold to from the franchisee. Role of the franchisee was that to engage the customer, charge them on a meter base, and then collect the money and take it as an incentive. So I think we set up 10 such enterprises in a very short duration of this time. So this is the mint story I think I have on the water demand and how to reduce the cost of cultivation, water consumption. And then it's now a sustainable case. That's it.
Thank you so much. So common theme that you heard yesterday, we started with RWB and we talked about the communities. We've heard it from Asian Paints talking about their communities of Gram Panchayats. You mentioned with the farmers in Jharkhand coming together, Niti Aayog, your potato farmers gave you the basis for that. Even your solar solution, I go back to what yesterday Vijay talked about, where the mulchers, etc., big investments, but the cooperatives came together, right? Your cotton produce units. So question for you, Niti, is another insight that you talked about is the community being such a core part of all of these other things then following. If you can talk a little bit about your experience of that, if you start with that as the basis, all of this other magic starts to happen.
One of the things that at the Hinduja Foundation and Hinduja Group we do is our communities are across the plants, group companies that have plants, the communities live around it. Group companies that are service providers like the MFI or the bank or others is a rural customer, or it's where their customers come from. And one of the first thing we do is that we do a baseline, a really detailed baseline. ACF did a baseline for us for about 50 villages in Mahad, and it took them 4 months to do it. So it's that detailed. And we look at where they are, and then we look at what their aspiration is, I mean, we didn't want to be paternalistic that we're coming here to do something for you, we'll do this for you. It is, what do you want? Where do you want to be? With communication and TV and internet, everybody has so many aspirations. Where do you want to be? And how do we help them reach those aspirations? And then we work backwards to see what are the interventions that need to be. Yes, one thing that's always there is water is one of the biggest intervention and biggest impact that will have on their lives. And that then builds up on what next. So the baseline is most important. Aspirations of the communities is most important. And when you work, when you take that aspirations as a baseline, you have I mean, I'm not saying you have immediate buy-in by the community, but the community is not that wary of you. You know, okay, these guys are talking to us and asking us what we want to be or what we want to do or how we want to be what we want to be. And that, so it basically is an icebreaker when we start a program. And then over time, we are constantly building on that. One great example I want to talk about is in Alwar, we have, Rajasthan is a very regressive society. Sorry to say this, but it is for women. Women are the ones that collect water there, whether it's a 5-year-old or a 90-year-old. 60% of their life is collecting water. And they are in Parda. They're still in Parda. And this is in Alwar. Alwar is so close to Delhi, but they're still in Parda. With ACF, we made a Sujal Jankar. This was a volunteer. It's a woman that works in her community. She starts with the water, and it goes on to any other need that there may be. It could be, maternal health. It could be menstruation. It could be girl child. It could be hygiene. It could be garbage. It could be livelihood. And the Sujal Jankar, it started with 4 women. It was very difficult to get the women to come out. But now, looking at your neighbor, women are coming out, and I think we have about 150 Sujal Jankar. They're actually formed a company, and they actually collect money, and they're actually doing this work. And they are now doing our work on the ground, truly speaking. They are the ones that is doing the communication. They are the ones that's doing the awareness. They are the ones that know the problem and are working with us to find the solutions and seeing that the solutions are being implemented. And, we're not going to be there forever. So they're also looking at the sustainability of it staying on. The community has to be the heart of it. And, we live in cities. Yes, I go to the village. I know what the village is like, but I don't really know the ground reality of that village. I don't really know the ground reality of the woman that lives in the village. And if women themselves are, looking at, and they're aspiring now, they're asking us that, do adult education. They're asking us education for the girl child to be more taken more seriously. They're asking us to work with the schools around so that we can look at malnutrition and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's my experience, that you talk to the community and let them talk to each other, and you see how well they come together and do things. Yeah, initially there is a little problem. Initially, the icebreaker is important. But once they see that it is for themselves and they have to do it themselves, then it really, and women are the biggest backbone of a community, I feel. I mean, I'm not being biased because I'm a woman, but yes, once you give a woman something to do and she sees that how good it is for her family, she will take it up and run. And she will get other women to run with you. Yeah.
Fantastic.